Guys, Mortal Kombat came out, and I don't know how I feel about it. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am your host ODIN5BEARD, and the subject of today's video is my personal review on Mortal Kombat that aired on HBO Max and in theaters last week. Now, I was looking to do this review a little bit sooner, but I wanted to watch it a couple times. That way, after that first watch, all my fan reaction that I got from watching it didn't overly influence the final verdict and then remain to be unbiased. Now, a couple years ago, when they announced that they were going to take another crack at the Mortal Kombat movie franchise, I was really excited, but also skeptical because, well, video game movies in general tend to be hot garbage, but also Mortal Kombat Annihilation was also very much hot garbage, not for just being one of the worst video game movies, one of the worst movies ever made. So I, as a fan for Mortal Kombat, am very much scarred, and that's branded in my brain for the rest of my life. So going into this, I have worries, but also know that the bar is set very low. So the new director of this movie, Simon McQuad, has stated in previous interviews leading up to the release of this movie that they wanted to be very much respectful to the source material and the fans and the games at large, but still knew that there's a base of non-Mortal Kombat fans that they want to pull in and make the story as palatable as possible, which I do respect, but I also, again, when I hear stuff like that, I'm concerned with the artistic freedom that they like to have, trying to turn it into their own thing instead of just being true to the source material. Now, the opening scene of this movie is very, very strong. It sets up the rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, the most classic of rivalries in fighting games in my opinion, and also really establishes a dark, brutal, yet emotional tone. The weight that Scorpion carries after a certain event happens in that scene is really powerful. Also, there's details that they display with Sub-Zero when he's doing his ice abilities. It's coming out of his hands and he's bleeding. It's very similar to like when Wolverine, displays his claws, he mentions how he's in pain. So it's things like that we've never seen that I, as a fan, appreciate, and also kind of makes the world seem a little bit more grounded in that regard. Also, when Scorpion picks up his little spear thing, it's actually a gardening tool on the ground, attaches it to a rope, and then he just uses that to murk guys. It is an amazing scene. It's actually really amazing in how they were able to set up all that stuff in just 6-7 minutes and then immediately throw it away with the next portion of this film. So when they segue to the rest of the movie, they do one of the worst Hollywood sins in my opinion, which was rely on text exposition to set up a whole epic saga. They basically go over the whole Earthrealm, Outworld rivalry and the tournament, and that if they lose so many times, Outer World is going to invade Earth. It's like, what? This seems like a pretty big thing to just, comb over in the opening text of the movie. So I, as a fan, or if I'm even a non-fan and I'm seeing that, I have no emotional stakes in any of this. After that opening text, we see our first new character, and that is Cole. Cole is not established in the Mortal Kombat universe as any kind of character, but he is put in this just because I think the director wanted to have someone who can be a conduit for the audience and react the way that he assumes the audience would react when they hear something that may sound really outlandish. So when he goes, that doesn't make sense. They didn't even spell combat right. So I think he's supposed to be the reaction of the audience, but still, give some sort of credence to the creators of the games or the movie at large. So after we're introduced to Cole, we're introduced to the new concept of what this movie is doing different outside the games, and that is the infamous Birthmark scenario. So instead of just being participant in general to Mortal Kombat or being recruited, they all have the famous Mortal Kombat dragon logo somewhere on their body as a birthmark, and that's supposed to be the calling for you to fight on behalf of Earthrealm. The only problem is, too, there's no continuity with that. You are basically born with this birthmark, but also if you kill somebody who has the birthmark, you get their birthmark. Then when they introduce that concept, they introduce the new ideas that once you have the birthmark and you go train for Mortal Kombat, that's when you can unlock your special ability. And I don't know how I felt about this portion of the movie. Like, I get that they wanted to showcase the powers, the special moves that these characters are known to have, but calling it a superpower was a little more of a stretch for me than I would like it to have. Also, in terms of characters, the one that stands head and shoulders above the rest, you've probably heard about it already, but Kano is easily the steal of the show. He has the most charisma, he has the best lines, he's the comedic relief, he's a scumbag. You're not supposed to like him, but you can't help it to feel like you like him. But I honestly took away Kano as the best character, with Cabal being the second. I was honestly just shocked that Cabal was in this movie in general, but the fact that they had him in there and he had that quippy kind of approach, henchman-y, gangster style dialogue was something I really appreciated. But I was really disappointed by Liu Kang and Kung Lao. Kung Lao's display of his abilities was definitely one of the coolest, and his fatality was very on point. But oh my god, everyone else in this movie is as stiff as a drywall. Because it's disappointing, because you would want that these characters who have these backgrounds to show a little bit more compassion or show a little bit more range, and it's not there. Now, it wouldn't be a video game movie or a Mortal Kombat movie if there weren't references to the game itself. The one good reference, in my opinion, throughout the entire movie was when Kano's training with Liu Kang. Liu Kang is just spamming leg sweeps on him over and over to the point where Kano gets frustrated and he's like, "Is that the only move you know?" Which I think was a great call out for the experience that players tend to have, whether it was in person or in the arcades back in the day. You know, you have that one guy who just knows the one move that just gets him the win, and it works out. And yeah, the way that they did that part was, in my opinion, the best reference. Everything else outside of that is really overtly cheesy. Whenever they make a call out to flawless victory, fatality, or finish him, these were callouts that were not necessary to have in a modern context, especially when the tone is so serious. But I get it. They want it to be this real cool, new, grounded, serious thing, but make it fun for fans to feel like they're watching something that's related to Mortal Kombat. Also, there's one other character in this movie that I feel like is done dirty, and that is Goro. Goro is very much teased in this movie, and when we finally see him, the sequence that he is presented in is overtly dark because he's a completely CG character. I'm pretty sure that they only did that because I think the darkness may have covered up some of the imperfections of the CGI. But he's not like the Prince of Outworld. He just comes off as like a henchman-like character, and I think it just devalues him a lot much more. Like, he's a four-armed monster. We should have seen him in another scene ripping some dude's head off and his arms off. Instead, he just shows up for a fight where he loses. I won't describe how, but it was a pretty disappointing factor of the movie for me. This movie suffers from bad writing. It suffers from bad dialogue, questionable plot. There are things about it that work. Some concepts are brought up in an interesting way, but they're executed in a very questionable manner as well. Like, the way they decide to fight back is really kind of like horror movie cheese, like maybe we should split up. Like, it's just one of those things that's like, why are you doing this? Also, the fact that it's called Mortal Kombat and there's no actual tournament happening. As a fan, there's things I really, really liked, but there was things about this that I felt were just messy. Now, was it horrifically bad? I wouldn't put it in that category. I would definitely say that in terms of the quality we've come to expect video game adapted movies, this is definitely a step above some of those other movies. Maybe that new Uncharted movie will follow in the same route, or maybe better. But I think if they were able to work out the kinks from this movie in terms of the plot, maybe some of the stiffness of the characters, and give people a little bit more focus and background, it could be more interesting and potentially spin off more successful movies if they go the route intelligently. Overall, I think in terms of ratings in movies, like, there's good, and then there's bad, and then there's the middle, and the middle is what I describe as fun. And I would describe this movie as fun, kind of, but it also just ends up being one of those things where you can't help but to think about it and wonder, what if they did it this way? What if they did it that way? If I'm spending a lot of time thinking about how I could have made the movie better, chances are it wasn't that great. As a fan, I say it was fun. As an average moviegoer person that was just looking to watch something entertaining, I would have probably walked away being like, I don't know what I just watched. I know I watched cool fight scenes. I know I watched something, if you're really into like bloody action, you got a couple of laughs. But I think going forward, I think they really dial in with laser focus, no pun intended on Kano. They would actually have an opportunity to create really interesting concepts and characters that I think would present themselves as a better opportunity going forward. But overall, guys, that is my takeaway of the Mortal Kombat movie. Also, I'm pretty sure that this is gonna be my first video on my YouTube channel, so go lightly. I am planning on doing more content in the future. I also have a Twitch stream. If you look in the description below, I'll be sure to include all of my links. But if you go on to like content like this, please like and subscribe. I can't believe I'm saying that. But yes, like and subscribe. But yeah, this was fun, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Rock out.